The crux of our submission says, let's make it simpler for the general public to get on the school bus.
Some students within our Catholic schools have no access to the current school bus service because of eligibility requirements.
Sometimes as people get older, the issues that affect them aren't necessarily at the focus of key decision makers.
We believe that all people should have access to safe, reliable, accessible and affordable transport.
So I think if Victoria could take some initiative here, it would constitute something that's internationally path-breaking.
Perhaps there could be a volunteer from the local school on the school run in the morning and in the afternoon. One of the parents travelling with the kids.
People talk about, oh, what if a pedophile gets on the bus and all this sort of things. That's all just rubbish. So adults on a school bus is a good thing. We wanted to reduce bullying. That's the number one issue that touches our association.
Would you envisage that, obviously the school buses don't run during school holidays, would you envisage that additional services would be put on during that gap period or there would be some sort of services running during that period as well to try and cover? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the whole notion of having an integrated system. So that the system operates all year. It can be different. It can differ at different times of the year, but that needs to be driven by the local needs.
So what we're suggesting is that it should be pre-booked.
Having a planned approach would definitely be a positive for them to know that they could actually book a spot on the bus and then have certainty that they would travel. Would be far more appealing than standing on a bus stop and hoping that they could get on.
Should Catholic school students have equitable access to service intended for public schools?
What we've put in our submission would reflect that that's what we would be seeking, that there would be accessibility to all in that regard as students, whether they're at a government school or not.
How do you think we should go about making sure that every child going to a school should be able to get on one of these school buses?
It's actually reviewing that eligibility criteria that we actually need to start with.
In your submission, you talked about the Castlemaine trial that's going on where there's GPS systems and other child safety measures.
We're trying to prove that this technology works and that the system can be more efficient than what it is. That's why we're doing it, to help government show them how the system can be more effective and more efficient.
Using technology to book the buses, is that going to be an issue for some older people who don't have access to technology, and also in rural areas where we have no signal coverage and so on?
I think there's enormous interest by many older people to learn more, but of course there are a group of older people that need options and alternate options. And so I think if there was a booking system, if there was something like an app type approach, the ability for some people to make a telephone call and do a booking in a manual way would also be an important option for a number of older people.
Could I understand the unintended consequences if we opened up the buses, the school buses, in terms of the volunteer network and all that sort of? Is there any adverse?
I don't think so, because I think the sector, in Victoria particularly, is screaming out for additional resources.
Are there any jurisdictions that you know of that allow adults or the general public to use school buses also?
I think New South Wales in their country areas have buses that are used by everybody.
So you possibly parts of New South Wales.
And it's common in Europe where they actually recognise the importance of route buses. So everybody uses them. They don't actually need to have the same amount of designated school buses because, they actually recognise the importance of public transport for everybody.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of cities or areas in Europe just don't have school buses because they've got a great service of route bus. Why would you have a school bus?